Yes. 70% usage.
Yeah, it's
It's fine.
instant of a healthy meta right there. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Littleroot Lessons episode number 218. I am doing both the intro and the outro today, and I am joined by my lovely co-host Carter. How you doing,
What's up, man?
Carter?
What's up, buddy?
Life, man.
I'm not gonna lie. That might be the best intro we've had since Angelo has been on the show.
Heck, yes. That's what we love to hear. We had the first Regulation G regional today.
We did.
Which is absolutely it was a wonderful weekend of Pokemon, to be honest. I know we were talking a little bit before the podcast. You said you weren't able to catch too much in day 2. I managed to catch quite a bit of the tournament this weekend, and we had a lot of fun. There was a lot of really cool teams.
Yeah, it was from what I got to watch a little bit yesterday, and then I got to watch like the finals today. I really enjoyed it. I think my big takeaway from what I've got to watch, Wolfe Glicke is a fantastic commentator as well. Like
He was amazing.
I have really enjoyed Wolf's content for quite a while. I think that like the way he is able to articulate things is very well. Like he's very good at being able to say what he wants to say, right?
Yeah.
But getting like unfiltered, unhinged Wolfe from like his his Emerald Kaizo days of streaming on Twitch and everything, I miss like the unhinged stuff that he is able to just like fly off the top of his head and do. And like getting like kind of a glimpse of that again with him doing commentary today was awesome. And then like having him plus Aaron to cast the finals is just like I don't think you could have asked for a better duo to cast the finals of this like regional.
Yeah,
both of them are just like instant hype men. So like having them plus being able to hear the crowd in the background as well popping off and everything, it was awesome.
It was amazing. And I think in the Discord earlier, I think Twilight sent it. They said something along the lines of, Wolfie blew my expectations out of the water, which is crazy saying that I had already high expectations for him. Yes. And like in comparison to the other casters, he was maybe a little bit more like unpolished in terms of like the seriousness and like kind of professionalism that a lot of them hold, but like it was the perfect blend with so many of the other commentators. Like Gabby is kind of like the very, very straightforward professional commentator, I feel like, of the group, and then you had like her paired with Wolfe a couple of times, and he was just like, oh, I'm calling this Terra, and then he gets it completely wrong every single time, and he's like
what I really love is to keep things pretty simplified of like being able to just like watch the stream and like have it be understandable to everyone is they always say something along the lines of, oh, depending on how this Pokemon is trained, blah 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 blah, right? Just like never going into details of like how things are actually done and everything. And Wolf's just like, yeah, depending on this Jolly or Adamant nature is going to be able to reach this speed stat and therefore be able to outspeed this. So really you get to know a lot based on this one turn, based on how this is actually trained. And like going into like a little more in depth with how things are actually done, as opposed to just like, well, you could see a lot of things based on this, and just leave it at surface level, right?
Yeah. Who would have thought that like the greatest Pokemon player of all time and like the top VGC content creator would be an amazing commentator?
and like that's the thing is like, just because he is a great player doesn't make him a great content creator or a great like commentator as well, right?
Yeah.
That is something I've like coming from my background in like other games and such. There's been players who are just like, oh, they are fantastic at this game, but they're kind of dull as a rock. Like they're not an entertaining person.
Yeah.
Wolfe reminds me a lot of. I know this means literally nothing to you. he reminds me a lot of Luis Scott Vargas in the Magic area, where he is an insanely good player who is also incredibly entertaining to watch and insanely insightful to everything going on. Watching like the Magic Pro Tours and stuff in years past, if Luis wouldn't make Top Cut, he would then step into the booth for like Championship Sunday and like commentate with like one of his best friends as well in the booth. And like that's what this finals match really like. It gave me that perception of just like these are two very good friends who know each other very well and like already have a natural connection with each other, so that they're able to play off of each other while also being insanely insightful about everything going on, to be able to show the audience be able to communicate what's going on to the audience.
Yeah. In my list of comparisons that mean nothing to you, he reminds me a lot of in the Champions League for soccer. They have some ex-players for the halftime show. It's Thierry Henry, Micah Richards, and Jamie Carragher, and then also there's another commentator too, whose name is not coming to my head right now, which is so messed up in me right now. Her name's Kate something, and the three men are all ex-players, and they are just like the funniest guys in the whole world, and they just like have the greatest banter with each other, but also have the ability to, when the Kate Abdo, that's her name, came back to me. Let's go. When the actual highlights at halftime is going on, they're so in depth in discussing it, and they just know so much about the game and how to play it and what's going on the field, that they can relay it so easily to the audience. And Wolfe has so much experience with that through his content creation, through his live streams of his own battles and everything, to where he was so easily translatable over it, and it was so much fun. It really was. And of course, shout out Necra, Gabby Snyder, and Aaron Cybertron Zhang for all their work on the table as well this weekend, and Sierra Dawn. Sierra Dawn
was Rosemary there this weekend as well?
Yeah, she's Necra.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Rosemary, Kelly, Necra.
You're right.
Yeah, no, it was such a fun event, and like such an amazing way to cap off this new regulation.
To make a connection that like you and I will both be able to understand, his commentary reminds me a lot of Tony Romo's. Just like,
oh my god, I don't like Tony Romo.
Dude, I love Romo's commentary. I love it. I really.
I do not like Tony Romo on the mic.
Oh, dude, I absolutely love it. Any game he casts, I'm just like, give it to me. I love it.
Okay, we got some different of opinions going on here. We can't agree on everything. It's okay.
It's fine. You can be wrong this week, I guess.
Something we can agree on is that the king of VGC is back. Incineroar is back at the top. It is clear number one, and it's not even close.
What is insane to me is like, you and I were kind of talking about this before the cast. It's like, it's so many physical Pokemon in this format are running Clear Amulet in response to Incineroar, right?
Yeah.
So many support Pokemon are running Covert Cloak as a response to Incineroar. So it's just like, there's so many things in the meta that are purposely tailored to be able to interact on a different axis with Incineroar, and it still makes up 70% of day 2 teams.
Like, that's not even mentioning the 21% Farigiraf usage, which is fake out preventing. You have the 25% Rillaboom usage, which is the faster fake out. It's insane, and obviously it lends to a lot, to its toolkit and its typing. But like, Clear Amulet also blocks things like Parting Shot, so you don't get that type of positioning around it. There's just it like defies all logic sometimes. I mean, it is just truly incredible, but like 70% incredible, I didn't see it coming. We were comparing it to the series 12 Sword and
Uh-huh.
Shield, the GS Cup double restricted format, and it was at 73% then. So
Which,
this is
like,
like not much different.
and to be fair, like, this is single restricted. I only see this number going up. Like granted, this is day 2, whereas the stuff that we're getting from Picolytics is just like generic ladder teams. Like I didn't
Yeah.
go in depth as to like looking at top like 1,500 plus ranking on Showdown or anything like that. It's just like, hey, 1 in 4 matches you're gonna play won't be against them Cineroar. Which is
It's
just it's insane. It really
it's
is.
nuts. And there was literally so much additional counterplay added in Scarlet and Violet than it had in Sword and Shield, and it's still
Yeah.
maintaining that 65-70% usage. I don't think there's much else to really say about Ensign.
It's the greatest VGC Pokemon of all time. Like I mean, we've said this every time it's been playable. You have to prep for it by playing your own, essentially.
Yeah. To close out the top 12 here of
Yeah, I have day
day
2
two.
pulled up. I can go back to day 1.
I think day 2 is just a better sampling
Okay.
overall because it's like the better performing team. I mean, if you want to go back, we can go back to day 1. Let's
Yeah.
look over that too. Why not?
Yeah, of course.
So day 1 following that we have Urshifu, Amoonguss, Rillaboom, pretty usual suspects there. Tornadus, Raging Bolt, Fluttermane at 27%. Big fall from Grace.
Yeah. The king has dethroned the queen, and man,
and a lot of it is because it shares that role with like Caloric Shadow Rider.
Not only sharing it with it, I was just like, you're doing so much of the same thing, right? You're a fast ghost type that's able to put on a ton of pressure via Terra, blah 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 blah, right?
Yeah.
But like also, the power level of the format is also just drastically increased, very very quickly. Like as we saw in finals, your special bulk on your Fluttermane isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be the best way to beat Fluttermane was to play Fluttermane, and now you have your Cali Shadows being able to one-shot it. You have Miraidon being able to one-shot it for just looking at it. Just like, yeah, sure.
Just for free with a sneeze. And
is Specs Miraidon the new Specs GU meme? Like, is that just where we're going?
Yes, it is. It's outrageous, but we'll get to restricteds in a couple minutes.
No, it wasn't using outrage.
What?
You said it's outrageous.
I needed a full 30 seconds to really comprehend that.
I was really hoping you just like would ignore it and just let it be, but no.
I was like, did I say that I was using outrage? I'm like, come on now. But yeah, the rest of the top 12 from day 1 was kind of the usual suspects, outside of this Pelipper, which made a jump into day 2.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Oh, we definitely talked a lot of smack on Pelipper, and we
I'm still going to. I hate Pelipper. It's such a stupid, goofy looking idiot.
Our STFU card in, as you might say. And I think to a lesser extent, because we also saw the weaknesses of running Pelipper, because at the end of the day, it still has Pelipper stats.
End of the day, it's still a Pelipper.
But it did put in some serious work and was in the top 6 of day 2 usage. And then rounding this out here, we have Ogerpon, Wellspring, Chi-Yu, and Urshifu Dark. Day 2, we have some big shifts. We have Raging Bolt moving up. We have Pelipper moving up. Rillaboom dropping down. Fluttermane dropping even lower. And then we have the arrival of Ursulina Bloodmoon and Chien-Pao onto the usage charts. Chi-Yu and Single Strike
Wellspring also
falling off.
Wellspring dropped to
Yeah, it was about
not
this.
not
It
a
was about
ton.
the same in terms of
It's
usage, but
yeah, it's negligible. I
yep.
think it's the simplest way to put it.
Those are
Um,
the best of the rest, as we put it last week.
I think Blood Moon is like the it's a pretty big winner from this weekend. I
Absolutely.
think I really think that it being able to ignore Cali Shadow while also being able to pressure Cali Shadow is a really big deal. Um, and like you're also a ground type, so you're able to be immune to everything that Miraidon's trying to do.
Yeah.
And like you can always just like pair it next to Cali Ice and be able to pressure people that way as well. Like, well, you can't intimidate me because I'm a special attacker, and like you don't really want to switch in on anything I'm doing. Like the downside there is like you are kind of weak to like wide guards specifically, at which point you just blood moon
Yeah, yeah.
them.
No, Blood Moon is a really great pick right now. It definitely struggles with things like Urshifu and Amoonguss and Rillaboom, but like that Terra Normal does give you a lot of counterplay. In Trick Room with the 50% Amoonguss, it might struggle a little more, but we actually saw it, in the top 8 on one of the top teams, on the top team, next to Miraidon in this, Tailwind mode.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a tail room team. We saw it actually with multiple copies in the top 8, but we're getting a little ahead
Yeah, I
of
mean, it
ourselves
ended
here.
up winning the event. So
Yep. Let's talk about the restricted picks up here next. So, to nobody's surprise, the horses in the top 2, really not shocking to anyone.
yeah, I think it's pretty easy to say that the Calyrex and like its forms are bananas. It
Yeah,
like I don't think there's an easier way to say that. Especially in these single restricted formats, it's hard to have the like extra boost in bulk that you need to be able to take them on when you only get one restricted.
yeah.
What is crazy to me is Zamazenta being up here. like
Zamazenta has actually been doing extremely
I
well
I
in
really
these
like it.
grassroots tours as of late. Um, it gets Iron Defense Body Press now. It does have options like Wide Guard, but there's a couple of these nice Zamazenta Rain teams running around with the Pelipper that um, have some really good tools into Pokemon like Terapagos, like Calyrex Ice Rider. Um, you, Even Koraidon and Miraidon, we saw a really close match between Zamazenta and Miraidon team in the top cut today. But yeah, Zamazenta really, really showing up, and Groudon kind of beating those mid allegations a little bit here with it's popping up on the top 8.
I think the best thing for Zamazenta is they gave it access to body press.
It was the game changer that it needed.
Like
Really.
it's single-handedly what it needed to be good.
It
And the
has
fact
that
they
perfect Incineroar answer,
yeah, and like so I actually have the VGC trainer school data pulled up here on my other monitor from what was this, the 27th? Yeah, so this past week. Um like Zamazenta had an 8th place finish. It's just like, hey, pick the 5, it's like pick 4 good mons, slap on Pelipper and Zamazenta.
Yeah, it won. I think it won either Tommy Tuesday or Spear Pillar or something like that. It's definitely been having some really great performances, and Body Press obviously is a massive part of that. But to round out the top 8, we have Kyogre in third, the bikes Koraidon and Miraidon in fourth and fifth, Terapagos, Zamazenta, and Groudon for day 1 usage. Looking at day 2 here.
Hey, the
Calyrex,
horses are still good.
Calyrex Ice Rider going up to 30% usage.
Insane.
So the
Calyrex making up what, almost 50% of the field by themselves.
yeah, Yep, we saw, these really great Calyrex balance teams doing, some really great things. Being able to just take tons of damage and dish it out with your Glacial Lances. Uh, it's outrageous. The horses are crazy.
I don't think it gets outrage either, actually.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Terapagos jumps up to third. Kyogre ends up chilling right around that 11% mark once again. Then Miraidon, Zamazenta, a pretty large fall off for Koraidon from about 10% in day 1 to 5% in day 2, and then Groudon. So actually no new Pokemon entering the top 8 graphic here, just a lot of switching around.
Restricteds.
Yep.
I'm interested in, if I go back to that VGC tournament, the trainer school tournament, I'm curious if their restricteds line up. Cali Shadow, Cali Ice, Kyogre, Terapagos, Zamazenta, Koraidon, Groudon, Miraidon.
Yep, that's our top 8 right there. That was our exact top 8, just in whatever order.
Yeah, I mean, Lunala's a little further down, and then I mean it's a pretty major drop after that.
Yeah, it becomes like 1%ers more than likely, even less.
Yeah, it goes. Rayquaza's the next at 1%. So
yeah,
which I know. We also got to see yesterday. We saw Rayquaza lose on stream, unfortunately.
Yeah,
is that right? It did not end up winning that match.
I don't remember the end of the match. I do know it won a game at the very least.
Yes,
on
I know it went to game 3, and I'm pretty sure Rayquaza ended up losing.
I believe so as well, but I'm not 100%. So,
but I really Rayquaza is my favorite restricted. So for it to do anything, it's just like, yeah, cool, thanks.
Yeah, we got to see Lugia on stream yesterday.
Yep, that was another really sick match.
Awesome.
The Lugia Annihilate Comfey team, I'm just like, I love everything that's going on here.
That team was beautiful, truly. But
I can't imagine it being fun to play against, but I'll take it.
Yeah, that must be a nightmare. Speaking of nightmares, let's move into our top 8 of the Masters bracket here. So
I got the bracket here. I can pull up final standings.
Yeah, we can go straight to final standings. I think. Yeah, the bracket tells us a small story of the entirety of it. So we do not have Lab Mouse updated yet. So our apologies for the graphic that we got.
I've already DM'd Tim a very nasty message. Don't worry.
Yeah, Tim, get it together. So Rajan Ball ends up taking the entire tournament with this amazing Ursaluna Blood Moon, Miraidon, Whimsicott, Farigiraf, Ogre Pond Cornerstone, and Incineroar team here.
And I guess there's an Incineroar there too or something.
This team has just so many unique pieces to it. The Ogre Pond Cornerstone, which, as we all know from my UDL series last season, is a UDL winner. Yeah. One of my personal favorites of this generation. Amazing. Ursaluna Blood Moon. If you're watching the UDL season this season, you'll see this thing popping around because we got it on the team. And this Encore Whimsicott was incredible in terms of support. In top 4, it won a 1v1 against a Raging Bolt because it encored it into Thunderclaps and then
get him
and then stalled it out of moves, locked it into Protect, and Moonblasted it. And then can't not talk about the choice specs Terra Electric Miraidon in the field here.
See, I know it was Electro Drift, Volt Switch, Discharge. I did not ever see the
Draco Meteor.
That makes sense. You can't be mono electric.
It made a massive play in top 4 where Draco Meteor was switching in Raging Bolts and one-shotted on turn 1.
It just bopped them, yeah.
Game over.
That'll do it.
It was done. It was done from that turn.
So speaking of the, I'm assuming he played Justin in top eight, top four.
Yes. Was it? I believe he did play Justin in top four. I think it was Andrew versus Leonard Kraft in the other top four match.
I'm interested. I remember there was a match yesterday where it came down to like Pelipper versus Kyogre, and it was Life Orb Pelipper, and it's just like I'm gonna hope I
Yes.
hit Hurricanes.
That game was also awesome.
It was wild to see Life Orb Pelipper when you're just like, this is a support Pokemon. It clicks Wide Guard and Tailwind. It's like, nah, we actually click, base 100, like base 225 weather balls.
and Life Orb Hurricanes that are not missing in the rain. Yeah, like
I know I've dunked on Pelipper a lot, but it was really cool to see it do anything yesterday.
I think that has been the big takeaway from this start of this format is that these creative support Pokemon that fill these specific niches against certain teams are so important in this format right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like later down the line, there's stuff like Galarian Moltres, there's Iron Jugulis, there's Pelipers, there's Chi-Yus, there's Dittos, there's Whimsicots. Like these Pokemon that you place around your restricteds change certain matchups so much, and that was what like the Ogerpon Cornerstone was here. It was something to help into, like your single target attacking restricteds, your Amoonguses, and so on and so forth. So it has like so many important matchup pieces that it brings. And we've seen this pairing with the Ogerpon Cornerstone, Fergaraf, Blood Moon before, but like now we're seeing it on this Tailwind team with Encore, Whimsicott, and Miraidon. And it was amazing. It was so cool. I was really impressed with this team. If you can't tell.
Rajan say in his like post-match interview that he team built with Aaron, or am I just imagining that?
I don't think I actually watched the post-match interview of like his finals win.
I could be wrong, but I mean I do both believe there was players, and for them to come up with 5 of the 6 matching makes sense. Like I mean they're both very good players in their own respect, but I'm interested to hear their thoughts between like the Cornerstone versus Ditto, and like if Aaron actually got to use Ditto this weekend, and if so, how good was it? Ditto is definitely one of those Pokemon that fits really well into like the Umbreon theorem of just like when it's good, it's insane, but also it is complete trash otherwise. Like there's no in between for Ditto, right?
Yeah. It's it's so difficult to use it properly because you need to get it in at the perfect time when you have it lined up, when you have a free switch into being across from a restricted legendary. That's the key of using this. I mean, sometimes you do actually want to copy like some type of a support or secondary Pokemon, but most of the time you're looking to get that restricted with your choice scarf so that you can steal a second restricted for your team. I think that the Ogerpon Cornerstone is so much more flexible with that
1,000%, yes.
With that built-in focus sash, the really great attacking stats. Its typing is not that bad into this format right now either. It has some benefits to it. And with that defense boost in Terra Rock, you actually don't have the worst Calyrex Ice matchup in reality.
And like not only that, but like you also are able to just like Ivy Cudgel Incineroars as well.
Yeah.
And like Ivy Cudgel's always going to do, for the most part, something into the opposing team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at it here into like Aaron saying, it hits, the Chi-Yu for super effective damage, the Tornadus for super effective damage. Like you get to bop Amoonguss, Fluttermane's not going to want to take that hit. So, like, it hits 5 of the 6 mons here for minimum neutral damage.
Yeah, and it adds to this fast mode that they got going on this team. While you have Pokemon that are slower, like Fergraf, Ursaluna, and like the Incineroar, you then also have this core of 3 Pokemon of Ogerpon, Miraidon, and Whimsicott, who all have a lot of speed and work really well in that Tailwind mode. I love the way that Blood Moon like flexes into that middle tier of speed to where it can be a part of that Tailwind mode itself. And we saw numerous times that Tailwind mode really put in the work. But then, yeah, you can also go and say, all right, this team is like a Caloric Shadow, Booster, Fluttermane type team. Like, I can't outspeed them. I can set the Trick Room, move this direction, have 2 Pokemon that are immune to Caloric Shadow on this team. And yeah, just start blowing stuff up with Life Orb, Terra Normal, Blood Moon.
Do you have anything else you wanna hit here on the winning team?
Choice Specs Miraidon just destroys
Slaps.
everything. Yeah, there is no switch-ins to it. Only ground types, only immunities.
Even then, it'll find a way.
Have a nice Draco Meteor, buddy.
I think my big takeaway is I love seeing Whimsicott do something again. It's been so long since it's been good, and for it to come out and win the first event of the season is, in my opinion, the biggest win there is.
Yeah, it was, and it really had
it was
so
very
much
good.
of a hand. It was a massive part in Rajan's plan. So big congrats to Rajan Ball for getting their I believe it's their first regional win. So
yes. They were saying that between Rajan and Andrew, one of them was going to be a first time winner. So
yeah, I believe I could be mistaken. I don't know. It might have been Keanu actually later down the line, who's in their first season of playing. But
one more time, I'm sorry.
I believe it was Keanu who is in their first season of playing.
It's like interesting. Yeah, that's awesome.
I thought it was either Andrew or Keanu, but I believe Andrew's been around for a little bit. In second place,
yes, he has.
Second place, we have Andrew Zhang, who for a minute I thought was Aaron Zhang when they put the name on the screen, and I was like, wait, he's commentating, and then I was like, oh wait, that's
him, like wired in.
I'm like, oh wait, that's Andrew. It's a different A name Zhang. Andrew brought this really awesome Choice Specs Terapagos team here.
Yeah, this team was sick.
Some really standard balance components around it: Fluttermane, Amoonguss, Urshifu, Tornadus. But then they also had this Chi-Yu on the team, which I believe Andrew's was Choice Scarfed.
That's sick. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think Nick Navarre's was Focus Sash. Andrew's was Choice Scarfed. I could be mistaken on be flipping them, but yeah, Andrew's team was really awesome. This Chi-Yu plus Terapagos combination is just enormous damage dealers together. You can also have the option to like not Terra the Terapagos and keep your Terra Shell for your single target Terra Starstorm, and then on the next turn pop your Terra Stellar and then get the Terra Starstorm off. The only issue with them, and we saw that become a problem in the finals, was that Fake Out was a very big key again into beating this team. Fake Out is really, really strong into the Terapagos Chi-Yu lead. You can Terra Ghost around the Chi-Yu, but then you're losing your Terra Stellar on the Terapagos, which is a pretty big hindrance to it.
I wanted to go see if Andrew had posted his team on Twitter. And so when you put in Andrew Zhang Twitter, Aaron is the first one that comes up.
So it wasn't just me. Oh my gosh. Did you have any luck in finding the team or?
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah, there's just like nothing updated for the actual teams right now, which stinks. I would love to go in depth on these since it's the start of the new format, but we're doing our best with the knowledge banks here.
I did find his Twitter account, and he has never made a post.
Oh, all right.
He,
Non-social king over here.
he's done like replies and stuff, but he's never actually made a post on Twitter.
Made
So
a post. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like standard kind of tailwind. Uh, I'm gonna do lots of special damage team here.
yeah, the finals really came down to who has tailwind last. I think was the simplest way to put it. Which is like in the game three, Andrew set tailwind on turn one, and then immediately lost his tornadoes to a volt switch, which then allowed Rajan to bring in his Whimsicott, delay setting up tailwind until it was guaranteed to win the game essentially.
Yeah,
Once
had
once
enough
he was able
turns to
to
win.
once he was able to get like Miraidon back in under tailwind, the game was over.
Yeah, and the focus sash on the Whimsicott obviously incredibly important, and the
Mm-hmm.
encore pressure that it provides to the rest of the team as well is something big that Tornadus doesn't have, because like encore forces you these mind games of, hey, I can't really protect anymore. I can't do setup because I'll get locked into that move, and then my Pokemon will be sitting on the field, vulnerable to attacks for 3 turns, doing nothing but setting up, which might not be all that important. Um, definitely a little bit of a tough matchup in finals for the for Andrew's team. I think that Rajan just had a lot of really great answers to the Terrapago stuff, especially once you give up that Terra Shell when you click the Terrestrialize button. Um, but yeah, Andrew had an amazing run here with this team.
Mm-hmm.
I love Chi. I think that it's great seeing it do so well, and I know you wish that it had Fiery Wrath, but it's still on 12% of teams here without it.
Am I asking for too much?
I think you're asking for a little bit too much. Have you seen how much Snarl does to Pokemon? Like, imagine
Some of
that.
us just want to see the world burn.
Imagine that 25 base power stronger with a flinch chance instead of the special attack drop. Like, come on
It's
now.
not sound based, so it can't hit through substitute.
Oh, womp womp.
So really, I mean, it's balanced.
Because there's a ton of substitute running around this weekend. Like, so much of it.
There was in the last format with exactly Landorus.
Yeah, as we can see, there's no Landorus to be found here. So
I'd love to be able to just see like unique picks from this weekend. But
there,
unfortunately, Lab Mouse is still not updated.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's so many unique picks. That's the one cool thing about restricted formats is that I know I was talking about it a little bit earlier, but like certain Pokemon just find their niche and they're able to bring something in just particular matchups that other Pokemon don't provide in that same type of way. They just fit that piece. Like later on, we'll talk about Iron Jugular specifically. It is one that's really coming to my mind right now. But like I love that about these niche pick Pokemon. But getting into team. The third and fourth place teams here, they are basically the same team, so we can kind of talk about them together. The only difference between them is Pelipper taking the slot of Furrygraph on Justin Burns' team, while Leonard Kraft was running the Furrygraph. For the rest of the team is Incineroar, Calyrex, Ice Rider, Raging Bolt, Amoonguss, and Urshifu Rapid Strike.
I don't know why, but the way you read that made me think that Incineroar was the restricted for half a second.
I mean, it might as well be at this point, right? It's on 70%.
This might as well be GS Cup and Incineroar just be Zacian of Sword and Shield.
Yeah, it's at that level. But no, these teams are Calyrex Ice Rider teams. Pretty standard Calyrex Ice Rider balance teams. We've been seeing these cores quite a bit. Uh, you know, the main core is the Ice Rider, the Incineroar, Raging Bolt, Amoonguss, Urshifu, like core of 5 Pokemon, slap a 6th on that helps your certain matchup spread, whether it be against fire types with the Pelipper or against stuff like Fake Out with the Furgraph.
I really like Farigiraf in this format. I know like we've talked about it when we were talking about the top 12 usage and everything, but the additional boost being able to punish Incineroar by being able to pressure it that way, by negating like the priority moves that it has access to, as well as being like an extra form of speed control. Like we just talked about how the finals came down to who moves first determines the match, and I think you're going to see that as the format develops more. That's going to be. I don't want to say it's going to move away from that. I do think that it's going to become more of who can take more hits. Like that's usually how formats develop, right? Like
Yeah, they get
you
a lot
start out of just
bulkier.
like you start out of just like trying to do the hyper offensive thing, which is like really what this match the finals came down to, is just like doing the hyper offensive thing and like preventing your opponent from getting to do theirs. Um, and like being able to move first is such a huge deal in these formats where you have just a single super powered restricted Pokemon, and just getting to get to do your thing is massive in this format. Um, I'm assuming I'd really be interested in seeing the percentage of Cali Ice that was clear amulet this weekend. I
It,
can't imagine
close
it's
to
not.
100.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's not the number one item on it. But I am curious because people do weird things.
I would say 85% plus.
I bet that's probably not inaccurate.
There's probably a couple weakness policy users out there. There's
That
probably
was
a
probably going to be my second
couple
choice.
assault vest, even like like real. I'm not gonna set trick room stuff. I'm gonna let Frigoraf do that. But I think clear amulet is by far and large the number one most used item on it. Um, Having that answer to
I
Incineroar makes so much sense.
I went and looked up on Lab Mouse just like generic data for it. This has 8 tournaments worth of data on it. Only one of them has any other item besides Clear Amulet.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
one tournament that had a single leftovers holder and a single weakness policy holder, and otherwise 91% of Calyraxes were clear amulets.
how do
Every
you turn
other,
your terrible Incineroar matchup on its head? You run a clear amulet,
you punch it in its throat.
and then hit them with high horsepower and knock them out like close to 100% of the time. It's yeah, and then you get your as one boost, your chilling nay boost, and it's just fun times. Um, but yeah, I mean these Calyrex Ice Rider teams, they're incredibly strong. A lot of them throughout the weekend on stream would not even set Trick Room. Uh, Sometimes they would just Terra go all out on the offensive, pick up KOs, and end the game that way. Um, and it really is, while it is very one note in the way that it plays, it has a lot of versatility in the hands of great players, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that was something very um, clear this weekend. Also, there's no Caloric Shadow in the top 8, so and
No,
there is
wild.
multiple Cali here. There's what, 2 Cali, so maybe something else that we were wrong in our restricted tier lists. I think that added bulk is just such a game changer on this, and like having such a strong dedicated team comp with so many great support mods around it makes such a big difference.
What is that on Nick's team? That last Pokemon there.
Terapagos.
Okay, so it looks different than Andrews. That's why I
Yeah,
asked.
it's a Terapagos Bobby form or whatever,
But
and
why
that's
is it?
the Terrestrial form, and then there's the Stellar form. I don't know why they use different graphics for them. It must have been in the way that Nick like described it in his Pokepace, maybe.
Sure,
Um,
because I was
but
trying to figure out what other restricteds there were, and I could not tell what that was.
yeah, that is a turtle.
Okay,
Speaking of the turtle, Nick Navarre's team is pretty identical in terms of the mods
Mm-hmm.
here to Andrew Zhang's team, but there is difference in the items, as we were saying before. I believe it was Andrew's Chiyu that was running the Choice Scarf, while I believe Nick's was running the Focus Sash. Then I think the only difference might have been in the Raging Bolt item. Uh, one
Well,
of them.
Andrew's not
Oh,
carrying a
they don't
raging
have the
bolt,
Raging
so
Bolt. That is actually the difference. It's the Raging Bolt.
it's Raging Bolt versus Fluttermania.
Flutterman. Okay, I see.
So yeah,
So
that item would also be different.
that item would. It could
I
be
don't
the
know. It could
same.
be
Actually, it
booster.
could be
Yeah, it could be
booster.
booster.
And honestly, they might have been most of the Raging Bolt have gone from that Assault Vest or Leftovers set towards this booster Thunderclap, Dragon Pulse slash Draco Meteor, and Thunderbolt set. Um, but yeah, in a similar vein, we have the Choice Specs Terrapagos here. Same type of set, same type of idea. Nick was actually undefeated for, I think it could have been all of Swiss, if not all the way up until round 14.
That's
Um,
pretty wild.
yeah, and this team is it is a dominating force, truly. The Urshifu also has taunt on it rather than uppercut.
Oh, is that where the taunt
Yes,
Urshifu came from?
yes. And Andrews had Swords Dance. Yeah.
Ooh,
So
okay.
so another little difference there, another little tweak. That's the other cool thing about these formats is that you can run these little tech moves as well onto them to
Mm-hmm.
have better matchups.
Mm-hmm.
The taunt helps into things like Incineroar and Trick Room modes. Also, we saw it become super impactful against a Raging Bolt because it got around the Thunderclap while also preventing the Incineroar from parting shotting into the Terrapagos. So, really, really cool tech there. The rest of the team, though, all the same here with the Chiyu, Amoonguss, Tornadus, Terrapagos. So,
Yeah, just like Terrapagos balance.
yep, yep. Which is honestly a really big departure from what we've been seeing with like a lot of the other Terrapagos teams in the grassroots tours, because a lot of those have been these Calm Mind variants with Terra Starstorm, Earth Power, Calm Mind, Protect with something like Leftovers or like Safety Goggles or some other item. But these Choice Specs teams have been, running the weekend for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really unique and cool. And I think that's what Terrapagos has been kind of waiting for, is that variation on the standard core that put it over the top, and this was it. It forces your opponents to not Terra in order to not become weak to that. So it creates these weird little mind games of, well, I can Terra my, let's say, Calyrex Ice Rider out of a Chiyu Heatwave, but I'm also just walking right into a Terra Starstorm, which is also boosted by Beezeroo.
Yep.
So, yeah, really well played to Nick all weekend long. Our one and only Kyogre of top 8 with Shilang Tang, with Iron Jugulus, Serena, Urshifu, Incineroar, Fluttermane, and of course the Kyogre.
Oh, Serena, my queen, how I've missed you.
She is back in full force.
Specifically next to Kyogre.
Yep. This is it's like Series 10 Nightmares all over again from Sword and Shield.
But Serena is not nearly as good as it once was. I mean, there's just no other way to put it.
Yeah.
There's a reason we haven't seen it in forever. The big thing, is it's able to block like the grassy glides coming out from opposing Rillabooms into your Kyogre, but I mean, why do that when you have a Giraffe now as well? The Iron Jugulus here is the one that I'm just like, what are we doing?
Iron Jugulus is actually really awesome on these Kyogre teams.
Okay,
You get booster speed, and then you get 100% accurate hurricanes in range.
Ooh.
plus
I forgot
Tailwind,
we got Hurricane. Okay.
Snarl, and Protect, and it matches up really well into the Caloric Shadow matchup.
Okay.
So you have the ability to and this Kyogre, I believe, is a Salt Vest as well. So
Okay.
you have these really awesome Caloric Shadow matchups with it. And going back to Serena, I do think that it actually maybe even slightly improves in Scarlet and Violet because Triple Axle is doing a ton into some of these dragon types, and it specifically answers that Thunderclap from Raging Bolt. So it has this good little synergy with a way to hit the Raging Bolt, a way to hit the Rillaboom, a way to hit the Incineroar that give it a lot of really cool answers. Plus, it has Clear Amulet, so you can run the Clear Amulet Serena with those moves and get some really good damage rolls. But yeah, Iron Jugulus is that Pokemon that fits perfectly on a team and has some really important matchups into other restricted Pokemon that allow it to do well in these types of formats. And I love seeing it. Like, it's such a cool adaptation on the Tornadus Kyogre teams that we're very used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like this team. I think that this is right up my alley as to what I would like and what I would play in this current format. Of just like Kyogre plus like Urshifu, get to do super powerful things there. You have your like Incineroar, obviously. It's just like this is just whale hyper offense. This is the simplest way to put it, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to click the spread move, you want to click the surging strikes. When that doesn't work, you have Flutter Mane to click the spread move. When that doesn't work, you have the Iron Jugulus to click the perfect accurate Hurricane. Like, yeah, this is right up my alley.
Yeah, and that's just like an ideal answer to Amoonguss. You know, you just
Mm-hmm.
KO that right away. And Jugulus is like no joke in terms of the attacking, department.
Yeah.
You have so much spread moves on this team with Snarl, Water Spout, Origin Pulse, Dazzling Gleam. Potentially Icy Wind, of course, is always an option on Fluttermane. That like
I'm
you just
assuming we don't get anywhere near close to outspeeding Miraidons, right? With Jugulus.
you do it with the booster.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 167 or something. I think it's base 100 or even maybe 110. And it's 135 to get to Miraidon. So you
Yeah, that's why I was curious. I didn't
I think you
anticipate being
pretty
able to get there.
I think you pretty easily 108 base speed for Jug. So yeah,
Ooh.
you very easily will outspeed Miraidon after the booster. Um, you reach 176. So you're what, like 230 ish. I
That
think you
sounds about
outspeed.
right.
I think you outspeed Caloric Shadow. You just don't outspeed other booster energy Pokemon like Fluttermane
Flutter.
specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is Xiaolang Tang's team. They had a great run, and congrats to them. Since we already touched on Aaron Trailer's team, we can focus quite a bit on Keanu's team here. Keanu Inosanto with this Zamazenta Pelipper, Latios, Galarian Moltres, Rillaboom, and Chien Pao team that was an Icicle Crash miss away from top 4.
What's crazy is there are 5 of the 6 bonds on this team that are unique, and it's not the one you would think it is. It's a duplicate.
The Pelipper is here, okay? Like
This
everything
is the
else,
only
completely
Rillaboom in
unique.
Top Cut, which is absurd to me.
That's pretty nuts, and that's probably why Miraidon is all over the shop here.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you get the Galarian Moltres here, you get the Latios, And in the games that we saw, we didn't get to see them do anything because they were playing Rajan and his Miraidon. We got to see
Yeah,
Latios. We got to see
yeah,
Latios switch in and get
die.
exploded to a Terra Electric Electro Drift. Okay, that is a resisted hit. That is a resisted hit.
Did you say it was Terra at the time?
It was Terra,
Okay,
yes.
I mean that's the reason why, right? Not because it has a base like what is it? Yeah, base
135.
135 special attack multiplied by a 1.3 times boost. You get a free life orb. This thing's so dumb. And then you get
I
your
saw
electric train
someone.
boost, and then oh my gosh.
I saw someone on Twitter. It might have been Rajan on Twitter talking about the amount of boost that the Choice Specs Miraidon gets. Did you know it gets a 5.2 times percent multiplier on Electro Drift?
Why?
Choice Specs 1.5 times. Oracle Pulse 1.33 times on the electric terrain, which
Dude,
is another 1.3 times or something. Like
Wolf during the finals was just like, all right, we're Terra boosted, choice spec boosted, terrain boosted, special attack boosted, discharge, single target discharge boosted.
Is this gonna do it? Oh, who would have thought? Yep, it did it.
Man,
Oh
that's
wow!
so wild! It got there.
But Keanu's team was amazing and gave Rajan a real run for his money. There was a flinch on an icicle crash in game 2, so he got all the bad luck that Rajan got in game 2 back in game 3 with the missed icicle crash, which was game changing, entirely game changing. The question that I ask myself at the end of the day is, does 2 sucker punches pick up? But I think that that's a choice that you have to take. You just have to go with the icicle crash to ensure it. Unfortunately, you did no damage at all, though, and that was the difference.
Any damage is better than no damage, but
it would have been real tight at the end game there. So I do believe Keanu made the right choice in going for it. It was very unlucky, but a truly incredible run for such unique Pokemon here. Like Galarian, Moltres, and Latios in top 8 in Reg G. Like, who would have thought we would have been saying that? Because I certainly did.
Yeah, I mean, there's two mons on this team that I did not think I would see this weekend. And man, do I need to keep dogging on Pelipper? Because like I'm going to. I hate Pelipper, man. It's so dumb. I hate its stupid little face.
I mean, obviously, the competitors this weekend they love its stupid little face.
It's so dumb and goofy, and I hate it.
But like Pelipper also falls into that. Hey, I fit a unique niche in this restricted format.
Yep.
And so I get these really awesome options into certain matchups that make me usable. And more than usable, a real threat on so many of these teams.
And that's the part that makes me mad.
And that's okay and understandable because we all talk tons of smack on Pelipper. Oh, it's a Pelipper. It's not going to do anything. It felt like the Love Sosa intro talking about Chief Keef, how he ain't going to do this and he ain't going to do that. But now, people love Sosa, okay? They love Sosa.
I mean, it was like what Reg A where we saw Pelipper, and it was like it was having to hold a scarf, a sash. Then
so it's still running the sash in most occasions, but like
I know it makes me laugh that like this Pokemon that has always had to like hold sash has been able to do other things now in a format that's so much more powerful.
It has just been that prime weather setter, and it's a weather setter that doesn't take up the restricted slot. Yep. And I know, like, I spoke very early on in the format when we did, I think, our very early preview of the Reg G format that like Pokemon like Raging Bolt weren't going to do as well because they share that type combination with something like Miraidon, and they share a similar type of role. But as it turns out, you don't need to take that restricted slot for the Raging Bolt, so it's so much more versatile and splashable than the Miraidon. And that's something with Pelipper as well. And it provides that support with Wide Guard and Drizzle and has these 100% accurate in rain hurricanes, which can take out an Amoonguss in a second. And it's just a combination of a couple of really great matchups for it that allow it to take, such a pivotal role. Pokemon like Moltres fall into more of that. This is niche. I'm going to add it onto the team to specifically patch up like my Calyrex Ice Rider matchup. To a lesser extent, the Kyogre matchup, but to decent, I guess, extent like the Terapagos matchup as well. But like Pelipper ends up just being a lot more splashable because a lot of these teams benefit from the rain as well.
Yep. 100%. It makes sense, but if it continues to do well, I'm not going to like it. Like, I just want that to be known. I'm still going to make fun of its stupid little face every time it does well.
I got a little distracted by a Yui appearance there.
Did I miss it?
You did. She was on my laptop, on all my keyboard and everything, and then she just jumped off of it. So you will be able to see her in the podcast, though, I promise. But yeah, that is our top 8 here. Congrats to all our top 8 players. They did fantastic. Do you want to take a couple moments and just talk about some Pokemon that maybe were underwhelming in terms of top 8 usage here?
I think the big one that really comes to mind is Cali Shadow.
Yeah.
Which they talked about on the cast after I think it was after the match ended. Wolfe was talking about how, everyone leading up to this event had to prep for Cali Shadow. And so it had this huge target on its back already. And you see that in the day 1 and day 2 usage of just like how popular it actually was. But for it to have no conversion into top 8 really means that people were prepped for it, right?
Yeah.
The good players playing it weren't able to convert into a top 8. So that the thing that could naturally happen is we have another one next weekend. Is that right? We have a California regional coming up.
Next weekend is Stockholm in Sweden.
Yes. Okay.
And then I believe the weekend after that is probably Los Angeles.
See, I knew there was the California regional coming up. I kind of remember where or when. But what you could see happen over the next couple weeks is, especially next week at Stockholm, if it doesn't do well, come LA, people could stop prepping for it, and that's when you're going to see Cali Shadow come back. So it could just be one of those things of give it time and see how the format develops. It's very much like, when with my like TCG background, it's just like, well, this wasn't the weekend for this deck because there was too much hate for it, but give it a couple weeks and people will stop playing hate for this and start playing hate for something else. And so give it time and it'll be back on top.
Yeah, it's certainly concerning because it hasn't had like any grassroots performances for the most part outside of like Joe Ugarte, taking it, and Wolfe Glicke at the very beginning. But like you look at like these top 8 Pokemon, like top 8 teams, Rajan's team has 2 immunities out of resistance. Mm-hmm. Andrew's team has 1 resistance, 1 immunity. Justin's has 1 resistance and Wide Guard. Nick's team has the 1 resistance, the 1 immunity. Shilong's team has 1 resistance, 1 immunity. Keanu 1 resistance, 2 resistances, and a
And a
wide
wide
guard
guard,
user.
yeah.
And then Aaron
and
has
and priority with Rillaboom too, being able to pressure it
yep,
that way.
and then Aaron has technically 3 immunities and a resistance on his team. Like the format is just very much built to where right now everyone knows the power that that Pokemon has. So most teams will have 2, 3 answers to be able to answer Astral Barrage specifically. It's gonna take some time for teams to be built in the same way that like Tarapago's teams are being built right now, and they're starting to show up because people are finding these really solid teams for it. But I do think that Cali Shadow will start having some performances soon. It won Worlds. It's not a fraudulent Pokemon.
No,
Um,
absolutely not.
but I do think that it's going to take some real improvisation on it to, get it up there. Another Pokemon that I wanted to point out before we get out of here is Rillaboom. I think that's a Pokemon that has had a lot of expectations for it, and with only one top cut performance, that's very far below what we normally see of it. And we see all these other grass types just doing better. I mean, there's 3 other grass types that finished higher than it. 4, if you
Yeah,
you
I
put
mean, if you
Whimsicott in
think
there.
about it, every team here in top 8 has a grass type of some kind.
Yep.
Yet there's only one Rillaboom, and I think a big part of that is, I think the idea of Miraidon kind of scares it away because you can't maintain your priority. You can't maintain your terrain. Terapagos is another reason, I think,
Yeah.
for very much the same reason. And on top of that, you're weak to Ice Raider. It's like there's a lot of things that are just all real negatives when it comes to Rillaboom, and that's ignoring Incineroar as well. Like, you're already Incin weak. Sure, you have the faster fake out, but like, you're Intimidate weak.
Yeah.
You don't particularly like losing your item through a knockoff. You don't like being parting shotted. Whereas, like, Amoonguss just gets to spore them.
Hmm.
You take that knockoff. They take their chip damage from Rocky Helmet, or whatever, and then you put them to sleep, and then everything's okay.
Yeah. You also struggle to hit to pressure Raging Bolt
Mm-hmm.
with any type of regularity, while at the very least Amoonguss can spore it. I do think that Miraidon doing well leads to Rillaboom doing well because you can win that terrain war,
Correct. Being
take
slower
away
means that you get that terrain.
take away all of those multipliers that we're talking about. But this variation of this choice specs Volt Switch Miraidon is like really tough for it because it's very easy for it to just reposition. Switch in the Farigiraf, take away your fake
Mm-hmm.
out, and then
Mm-hmm.
reposition off of you. Not to mention, we also saw Terra Electric, Electro Drift, and Electric Terrain with choice specs. One shot in Assault Vest Rillaboom today. Okay? Uh, outrageous. Outrageous numbers. But yeah,
Just absolutely bananas.
it is just a little surprising to see it drop with like very little performances in top 8. Seeing all of these other grass types here just perform so much better. Uh, Amoonguss is really the big killer of Rillaboom, I think, in this format. Um, just the pressure that Spore puts down, especially going into day 2, going up to 50% usage. The pressure that Spore puts down and the ability to truly support your teammates with redirecting those electro drifts, redirecting those collision courses, um, redirecting, behemoth bashes and whatever
And
else.
body presses, and yeah.
Yeah, whatever else you really, need to single target hits that you can redirect. It is very important. And I just think that the pressure of, hey, I'm going to go to sleep and become food for the restricted later on is more meaningful than the, oh, I'm going to take a grassy glide. I'm going to take a wood hammer or a U-turn
Mm-hmm.
here. So, yeah.
I think the just to like close this out, I think the last one I want to talk about is Ogre Pond. I think similar to this conversation we're having about Rillaboom, if you told me that there was going to be one Ogre Pond in top 8, Cornerstone was not going to be the one I was going to pick as being that spot. I do think that Wellspring is pretty okay in this format. If Miraidon continues to do well, I think it could struggle. And I think that might be part of why it didn't convert as well into day 2 and into top 8 is just like the usage here of Miraidon being at the top tables. But when you're taking a neutral hit versus a resisted hit from it makes a big difference. And on top of that, I mean, you don't really want to Terra in front of Terapagos. Even like, sure, you get your special defense boost, but now you're taking double damage, right?
Yeah.
So like, it really comes down to what role is Wellspring providing in this current format that you actually see it being beneficial.
I think it also falls into another Pokemon that struggles with Raging Bolt. I think that
correct. Yes.
This has been a massive weekend for Raging Bolt altogether. And the fact that Rillaboom and Ogerpon each don't have much that threatens it in its natural typing also kind of lends to not threatening the other restricted Pokemon. I mean, you don't threaten Miraidon and Koraidon. You don't threaten Cali Ice, especially when it Terra Grasses on you. It's tough. I think that down the line we might see like the Hearthflame mask Ogerpon start to pop back up. I think that might be a bit underrated because that fire type attack damage just does so much. But yeah, it's a weird position for these grass types who are all fighting for a space with Amoonguss. And like Cornerstone can at least hit the Raging Bolt, which I think leaves a lot to why it was the only Ogerpon here. So,
I do think, just to kind of end on a note, if you want to, if we want to say it like that, the two big takeaways from this weekend. The big takeaway from this weekend is I think electric coverage is very good right now. Your electric types are very powerful, being Miraidon and Raging Bolt, right?
yeah.
Is it time to break out Raichu?
The amount of people I've been seeing let's break out Raichu, let's break out Terra Fairy Pachirisu, let's break out Thundurus. Terra Fairy Thundurus Therian was another one I saw today.
Ooh.
With Volt Absorb and Assault Vest. Like, I don't want to say yes, but I also don't think I can say no. Like,
so
those Pokemon very easily fall into that like niche Pokemon to fulfill a specific role against a specific Pokemon.
My thought is Raichu is, looking at it, the best Lightning Rod user. Your other options are Rhyperior, Pincurchin, and Zebstrika. So
yeah,
you don't have good pickings when it comes to specifically Lightning Rod. And if you're going to be running into these Volt Switches and these Thunderclaps, Lightning Rod seems like a really good place to be, as opposed to trying to predict a switch in. Just having that constant redirection, I think, can be really useful. Granted, I also understand, just like Pelipper is a Pelipper, Raichu is a Raichu. I understand that.
You could be running Windbolt Storm, Wild Bolt Storm, Thunderous Therian with Volt Absorb, and having yourself a good time at the same time. So,
I mean, Raichu's not a joke. Like, I mean, it has access to lightning rod. You know, obviously you're gonna have to like sash it up, but
Yeah.
you know, you get electro web. You're a fast encore user. You get access to fake out. Um, you get helping hand. Like Nuzzle is like also a good move. You're a volt switch user yourself. Like, I mean, Raichu has a lot of things in his move pool that are like appealing. The problem is you die to a ham sandwich.
Yeah, and like being a base, what is it, 110 speed
110
support,
speed, yeah.
base
Which
110 speed support Pokemon that dies to a ham sandwich is not really what you want right now. Like the meta has far outspeeded 110 tier.
yeah.
Um,
Given, you know, if this was 20 years ago, 110 is a good speed stat, but
yeah, especially with all the booster speed Pokemon running around
mhm.
with, Proto Sun, with Choice Scarfers, with Terra Ghosters, with, there's going to be a plethora of ground types as well. I think that something like Thunderous Therian, which has legendary base stats, it has an
Mhm.
amazing special attack stat, it has great spread moves. Volt Switch could be, I mean, Volt Absorb could be something that you run next to Miraidon and click Discharge with.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
um, I think that there's some interesting options with both of these Pokemon. I think that like Assault Vest, Thunderous Therian adds a lot more with its move coverage and its, strong special attacking than something like a Raichu does. But Raichu did win Worlds, so can't count it out either.
But
But
yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Just you know, throwing it out there. This is something you could look out for. Not
yep,
sure if it's good, but it's definitely a Pokemon that exists.
we're gonna have to get the Raichu or Pikachu team onto laddering at some point. But with that, that has been the episode. That has been the first regional of Regulation G of our single restricted format. Um, Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. Let us know down below why people should actually be using Origin Form Dialga, like me, because it's really cool. Make sure you guys go and follow the Twitter over at LR Lessons. Come join the community Discord, hang out with us, talk about all the fun restricted stuff, all the team building that people are doing. Our team building chat has actually been popping off quite a bit lately, with people throwing in all these really cool restricted pairings and ideas that go along in this format. Make sure you check out the Discord and Patreon supporters links as well. Shout out to Papa Swish and Johnny Bravo Sr. for your support on Patreon, and shout out to Smeargle for your support on Discord. With that, that has been episode number 218. We'll see you all next week, probably covering Stockholm. See ya.